Have you ever struggled to read a website that used a gray or teal font on a white background, or vice versa? Or maybe struggled to read a PowerPoint slide that used red on blue? This struggle might be because of a challenge with light-dark contrast, color blindness, or maybe just the lighting in the room. Color blindness alone affects approximately 8% of the male population. If you spend the time and effort to create a message worth sharing, you'll probably want to take just a little bit of extra time to make sure contrast issues don't prevent people from receiving that message. In this toolbox tip, I'm going to share my favorite tool for preventing color contrast issues. Let's say I'm working on a new e-learning design for Zanners, the fake grocery store I own. Our color palette includes this teal color, and I want to use it with white. And let's say I like using gray text instead of black for a more subtle design effect. I look at it and think, yeah, that seems a little light. So I darken the teal and the gray. That seems a lot better and still keeps with the overall design aesthetic I'm going for. So is that enough? Will these color combinations cause barriers for people? Well, I need to be careful about making choices based on my vision. So instead, I use my go-to tool, WebAIM's Contrast Checker. Here, I can enter the numerical values of the colors I'm considering, and the site lets me know how good the contrast is. The most contrast possible is 21:1, black on white, or white on black. The lowest contrast possible is 1:1, white on white, black on black, blue on blue, any two identical colors. I'll leave the white here for the foreground, meaning my text, and then in the background color field, I'll enter the hexadecimal color code for the teal in the background. Now, if I click the swatch, I could also enter my color using the RGB values. I can use the eyedropper tool, or just select a color from the palette. The contrast checker calculates a contrast ratio of 2.76:1. But what does that actually tell me? If I scroll down a little farther, I can find out if this amount of ratio is enough for normal and for large text. WCAG AA is the goal that most organizations use. AAA is an even higher standard. Notice that this ratio of 2.76:1 fails for normal text. Normal text is defined as below 18-point regular or below 14-point if it's bolded. And it's not even enough contrast for large text, which is 18-point regular and above, or 14-point bold and above. So from here, I adjust my colors until I get the contrast I want. I can enter in new numerical values, or in this case, I'll just use the slider to darken my color until I get what I want. Large text requires a 3:1 ratio. So I wouldn't have to make the color much darker to get it from 2.76 to 3. It actually doesn't look any different to me at all. But then again, I'm not designing for my eyes. Now I can use this color combination for larger text. But I'd have to go even darker for normal text. Normal text requires a ratio of 4.5:1. I'd have to go quite a bit darker. Now let's consider my slide design again. The first version didn't have enough color contrast for anybody, but it's not actually an uncommon design approach. Next version, I have what felt like good contrast for me, but it still didn't meet the AA standard. Then this third slide has adequate contrast for all three text elements: the gray on white large heading, the white on teal large text, and the teal on white small text. Now, on top of the numerical ratios, it's also good to apply judgment. For example, here I have a bright royal blue. And if I enter it into the contrast checker, it tells me that I can put small white text on it. It even meets the more robust AAA requirement with a roughly 8:5:1 ratio. But full paragraphs with this combination won't be easy to read for anyone. When you have smaller text, this paragraph uses 12-point, and a lot of text, it's better to be more conservative in your color choices. And even though the numerical contrast ratios are the same regardless of which of the two colors is foreground and which is background, light text on a color background can be harder to read than color text on a white background. So again, more contrast is helpful here if I want to use white text. One of the mantras I learned in design school was, the more text you have, the less fun you should try to have with it. Save your bold color combinations for non-content accents, or perhaps situations where you have just a few words you want to emphasize. Purposeful text contrast choices are a great way to make your content more accessible because it doesn't cost any extra money. And with the WebAIM color contrast checker, it only takes a few minutes.